Chemotherapy that I had was extremely aggressive. This is a question I get a lot. How did you get rid of stage 4 colon cancer in 7 months? It was the grace of God, but I'm going to try and shed some light on some practical things that took place during the time of my diagnosis whilst I was in treatment. My name is Vanessa, I'm 34 years old and I am a stage 4 colon cancer survivor. I'm going to talk about what I ate, I'm going to talk about nutrition, I'm going to talk about what I drank, I'm going to talk about the impact that chemotherapy had on me, and then I'm going to talk about surgery. We'll also touch on work just a little bit. So I had chemotherapy from a Tuesday to a Thursday every other week for 3 months, okay? So I would go to the hospital, they would, I still have the scar for where I had the thing under my arm. They would put 2 different types of chemos in me, and then they would put the third one in, which I would take home, and that would be in for 48 hours. I would go back on Thursday and then they would remove it after 48 hours. Once they reviewed that treatment, they did a scan, they did an MRI scan, and they were astounded by the results. My body responded so well to chemotherapy. And during that time, whilst I was on chemo, I conducted a lot of research on things that I could put into my body that was good for me, because the chemotherapy essentially is a poison. It can't differentiate from good cells and bad cells, so it just kills all of your cells. So I wanted to ensure that I was doing the best to put things into my body that were going to combat the damage that the chemo was doing. So I read up on soursop, and there's actually a lot of scientific research that supports soursop killing cancer. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a nutritionist. Please, I can only tell you what worked for me, and I can only tell you what I have read. I give all glory to God that I'm here today. At the time, I was drinking soursop tea with organic honey like 2 to 3 times a day. And then once I started to get tired of that taste, I switched to moringa tea, and I would alternate. So maybe in the morning I would have soursop, and in the afternoon or the evening I would have moringa tea in hot water, warm water with lemon and ginger. And I was drinking that on a daily basis. I was starting my days with that as well. Diet is I increased the healthy foods that I was consuming. I reduced sugar, cut out biscuits, cut out desserts, cut out cakes, cut out crisps, and those are things that I love. Haribos, I cut them all out. I would have a little bit here and there, but it was at a minimum, and it wasn't on a daily basis. Some people will tell you to be, to go vegan and not to eat meat, especially with like something like colon cancer. I didn't eat processed meats. But the thing is, with nutrition, you need to be really careful, because a lot of people, when they change their diet, they actually go through a phase of malnutrition, and that is because they haven't yet learned what things that they need to add to their diet to make up for the deficit. So for example, if you get a lot of iron from red meat and then you cut out red meat from your diet, if you don't supplement that with enough things such as like lentils and beans and greens, if you don't eat enough large quantities of that, then actually now you're at a deficit and you're not getting the amount of iron into your body that you actually need. So for me, what I was advised, and I actually think was the best thing, is not to drastically change my diet, but to ensure that I was eating a balanced diet. So making sure that I'm getting good amounts of everything. I cut out anything and anyone that stresses me. Like, my sole focus was my health. I didn't tell a lot of people. I told a handful of people, and even some of the people that I did tell, they had to go because they were causing stress. Okay, so your body does not have a positive response to stress. So I was always trying to make sure that I was in a calm state of mind around people that were loving and doing things that made me happy. The thing that I did is I stopped working. I did not work. As in my 9 to 5. So I've always had like a 9 to 5 and a side hustle. Well, my 9 to 5, I was head of curriculum in a school for my subject. Okay, so for business studies, I stopped working. If you work in a school, you know how stressful the environment is. You're working with teenagers. So all of my energy, all of my time was focused on resting and getting better. So I had a resection on my colon. They told me that they took about 20 centimeters of it out, and they were able to successfully remove the cancer from my colon, and then they signed me up for a liver resection. 6 weeks after my colon resection, I had to go in for open surgery, where they were going to remove the remaining cancer cells from my liver. When they actually went to perform that treatment, now bear in mind, they had done a scan like 2 weeks before my actual surgery, and they could see where the cancer was. They could see what they needed to remove. They anticipated removing a large part of my liver, because your liver grows back, and because the cancer was in like different areas of my liver. It wasn't just in one place. And by the time they went there, the cancer was gone. The surgeon told me that all he removed was like 5 to 10% of my liver, and it was all scar tissue. So like when you get a cut, you're left with a scar. That was essentially what they removed from the inside of me. It's the scar from where the cancer was, but was no longer. So hopefully that was useful. If you have any more questions, if I didn't explain any part of it enough, just let me know and I will make another video. I'm praying for all of you that may be going through this or have family members that are going through this. Please remain strong, and please remember that these people, they don't know what cancer is. Like, they tell you that everything causes cancer these days, okay? They don't really understand what it is, and therefore you cannot put more faith in them than in God. That's not even a logical thought, okay? You can't tell me what it is, but I should trust every single thing you're saying. Now, I'm not saying don't listen to your doctor, but I'm just saying take everything with a grain of salt, okay? Make sure you're making the right decisions, making informed decisions, but your doctors are not God. They don't know everything, and they are not the author of your story. You are.